What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Endgame. We're here to draft, and that's what we do every week throughout the offseason to get you ready for draft season. Speaking of drafts, we have some more exciting news for you.
Yes, so we have an app. That's right, we have an app that you can download. Thanks to one of our community members, he approached us with this idea. He developed it. It's an incredible app. So much on here. You can have access to all your Yahoo and your sleeper leagues in one app. But what's really cool is you get to see your league history. So for however many years your league has been around, you get to see the history, your win-loss, how many titles. And you get to compete with not only your league mates, see how you stand up against your league mates, but you get to compete against everybody that's going to join the app. So you can see how you're doing, how you fare against other fantasy football enthusiasts like yourself. But the really cool part, that part's cool, but the other cool part is us. He asked us to be the only specific experts on the app. And what that means is you will be able to go on the app and ask us any type of fantasy question. Start, sit, waiver, trades, streaming options, even advice in your fantasy drafts. And the best part is not only will we be able to answer your question, but we actually get to see your roster and the players available. So you don't have to tell us, here's my team, here's who's available. We actually can just go in the app, see your team, see who's available, tell you who to start, who to pick up off waivers, if the trade's a good trade, who to draft. It's an awesome app. It's free. Download it now. Go, whatever, in the App Store, Google Play, Draft Lane. Right there, you can see it, Draft Lane. Completely free. Check it out. Download it. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, it's going to be a must, really, because I know last year during the live shows, we do our start sale. Well, we were doing a couple of live shows every week during the season, and man, it was a struggle just to get through even just the super chats to try to answer as many questions as possible. A lot of people waiting and, couldn't make the live show sometimes. A lot of people really wanted to get their questions answered sooner. This gives you the ability to ask your question anytime. You don't have to wait for the live start sit show. No, we're still going to do the live show, but this will give you the opportunity to reach out to us at any time, and we will get to it as soon as possible. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. And plus, if you're grizzled fantasy veterans like us, you want to see all your league history and remember which leagues you had, which league, when was it? Remember, I had drafted this guy number one, and you can look through your rosters. There's so many other options that I don't think any app I can think of has all of this at your disposal. So best of all, again, it's free to download. Check it out right now. It's finally ready. We're very excited about this. So definitely go out and support us. Draft Lane. Check it out. All right. But right now, let's do the actual draft. We're here on Sleeper. This is free too. Now, you notice that besides us, we are a couple of people already in there. Anthony is in and the king of the world. Some people got their spots because they are members of the flock. You guys know we've been talking about this for a while, but you do need to check that out if you haven't already. In the description, flockfantasy.com/endgame, where we have access to everything else that we offer besides just what's on YouTube. But anyways, they're members. They got their spots. Everyone else, good luck getting in. The link is about to drop. Hopefully y'all can join us. Welcome to some of our regular viewers who are in here already. Dan and Andrea. All right. We'll see if y'all get it.
All right. Filling up fast. It's like 1, 2, one spot. There it is. NMB. Nice.
NMB and AL always gets a spot.
And then we're getting always good when we get some testimonials. Sign up on Flock. Also, Anthony, download the app. Draft Lane. Download the app, guys. All right.
Stinger's in the house. Did you get in? I don't see him in the draft. Oh yeah, he is. No, you got the 11th spot.
All right. I just got to make sure everybody that's in here are good people. All right, we are good. Nobody who bails early. Looks like we're good. We got Bijan at the 1, Seahawks fan, and then you and I. We ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I decided to reverse snipe myself with you by picking the spot after you so you could snipe me, but then I actually get you on the way back. So it's all.
I noticed you grabbed that spot right behind me. So
it's been too long. We're trying not to always get back to back, but I feel like this is a good time for it. Yeah. That's funny.
All right.
This is true. Sometimes looking back at the past isn't always a good thing. You can learn from your mistakes, though, right? Looking at your league history, you can't win every year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't win every championship every year. My goal is always to take home at least one title a year. I usually play in about 5 to 7 leagues. If I can win one title, that's good. If I can win multiple, that's great. Last year I did get one. I was in 5 out of 7. I'm like, oh, I'm going to win. So I got 5 out of 7 championship teams. I'm going to win so many titles and 4 runner-ups. That was pretty frustrating, but at least I got one.
Yeah. Oh man, do I try something different? I'll try something different.
All right, that's probably where I'd go.
All right, so not a lot of breaking news. I mean, for us, big news. NFL these days, pretty quiet except the DeAndre Hopkins thing. So where does he land? Of course, everyone's saying it's either Bills or Chiefs. I mean, do you think it's that clear cut? It's just one of those contenders or no one?
I mean, you never want to say it's that clear cut because you never know what the player's thinking. What kind of offers are he getting? Is he getting from the teams? But if DeAndre Hopkins kind of listed the things he wanted, right? Like a good defense, a stable, situation, and a quarterback who loves the game, whatever that means. But when he listed his 5 quarterbacks, it was like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and I don't remember who the other one was. So if that's really what he cares about, if that's truly what he cares about, because like he's 30, he's going to be 31 this year, I believe. He seems like a pretty smart, level-headed guy. Like I don't think he's out there. Like he doesn't seem like a guy who's going to have like 20 Lambos and 10 houses. Like he probably has been pretty good with his money. I don't know, but he just seems like that kind of guy. Then the Chiefs or the Bills are the only teams that make sense. Like you want to win a Super Bowl, you want to go play for an elite organization and elite quarterback. Those are your choices. That's it. Now, I think the Browns kind of make some sense if you want to look at teams outside of that because he has played with Deshaun Watson. They do have a great defense. But does he feel like they're ready to win a Super Bowl right now? I don't know. It just seems like Chiefs or Bills. And to me, it's like if I'm DeAndre Hopkins and I really care about winning the Super Bowl and the Chiefs say, here's X amount of dollars, and assuming the X amount of dollars isn't a complete lowball offer, I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah, I think it's Chiefs or Bills, honestly. The Browns is the interesting one, right? What about the whole Deshaun Watson reunion? But I think if that was the plan all along to reunite with Watson, then that would have been kind of a done deal by now. We would have heard more about it. I don't know that. I mean, yeah, like you say, are they really, even with DeAndre Hopkins, does that make them a contender, like a Super Bowl contender? Nah, he's probably going to either join the Chiefs if it works out financially well enough in his favor, or the Bills, which is partly why, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I tell you that every Chiefs receiver that is a trendy sleeper every season I'm off of. But if Hopkins goes there especially, I mean, come on. All right. Oh, I'm back up.
Yeah, that would be my follow-up question. Let's say he goes to the Chiefs or the Bills. Where are we then drafting DeAndre Hopkins in fantasy? Like, is he a top 10 receiver? Is he a top 15, top 20? I mean, you gotta bump him up quite a bit, right? If he went to one of those spots.
Definitely got to bump him up. How much do you bump him up? I mean, that's the question. I don't know that he can go crazy high. I'm struggling here. Let me see.
I mean, I would have trouble like. I think that's the right pick. I was looking here. I mean, I know it's a 3 wide receiver league, but man, there's
not a receiver that jumps off the page. I was waiting for Higgins to fall to me, and of course he didn't because Ale.
Yeah, I feel like Higgins is kind of the tier break there, so I'll gladly go running back here. But let's go back to Hopkins because he's kind of the biggest news story at the moment. Well, here we go. Here's a running back run. Hopkins signs right, like you wake up tomorrow. Hopkins is a Chief. Like would you take him? Would you have taken him right there?
No.
Okay.
Because look, to me, I think. Well, actually, I don't even know. If he goes to the Bills, remember they already have Stephon Diggs. He's not the alpha there. Then they're going to have to distribute those targets to some extent. I know he'll be fine, but he's not a guy who's going to get the same type of numbers he did in Houston when he was really the main guy. I'm going to say the only guy, but the main guy clearly. And he's been solid in Arizona, but he hasn't been elite, like for fantasy purposes, like he has. And of course, you took Amari Cooper right before I was going to. Got to get another receiver here.
Okay, so let's go. Okay, well, let's wait for your pick. Because I feel like this is an interesting spot for wide receivers here. Like we're in this interesting spot of wide receivers where like you can make a case for them, but you can also make a case against them. Like we're in this interesting spot here where like I certainly feel like we're in the next tier of wide receivers. Okay, so you want QB. So let me ask you this. DeAndre Hopkins is a Chief. Do you pick him there?
No, there's a couple of receivers I have that are pretty comparable, guys who are the number one on their team. So like I was saying, he's even in Buffalo, there's no way he is the number one or even the 1A because Stephon Diggs has that chemistry, has that rapport with Josh Allen, right? He'll still be more the go-to guy. In Kansas City, as much as we'd love to say, oh, it'll make him a 2,000-yard receiver, we know who the main guy there is. It's Travis Kelce, and they're going to spread the ball around because this is what the Chiefs do is they switch things up. Every 4 or 5 games, they completely change what their offense looks like to adjust to defenses that are trying to stop them because you have to do something to stop Andy Reid's offense. This is why for all of a sudden for a month, Jerick McKinnon is like the MVP, right? Because then they decide, all we're going to do is throw it to the running back and we're going to hand it off to a guy that they don't think we're going to hand it off to. And then for a while, Kelce goes crazy because you forgot about him and we're going to throw it just to him. And then sometimes they're taking deep shots. So I don't feel like he's going to have that consistency. He'll have his big games, but I don't think Hopkins to the Chiefs really makes him more valuable in fantasy as compared to an Arizona offense that was still fairly pass heavy and where he was still clearly the top target. You know what I mean? Kansas City is never going to be an offense that funnels the ball to one wide receiver because a lot of Tyreek Hill's, his production, remember, it came on those long, big, deep plays. Well, DeAndre Hopkins is not that type of receiver.
Yeah, but when they did have Tyreek Hill and Kelce, they were pretty much the only 2 guys Mahomes threw to. I think I don't think Hopkins, 27-year-old Hopkins might go for 2,000 yards in Kansas City. This is not 27-year-old Hopkins. He's still a good player, but I think he's more like an intermediate type. Like he doesn't have that vertical game anymore like he used to have, right? But he still has great hands. He can still, make contested catches. He can still get open on those short intermediate routes. He would be by far better than anybody else on that roster as far as pass catchers go. No, I don't think he's going to get 2,000 yards, but I'd probably have to take him over guys like Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, Drake London, Deebo Samuel. I just believe that if you give Mahomes somebody as talented as DeAndre Hopkins, he won't spread the ball around as much because DeAndre Hopkins will be open more often. So the Bills would definitely be a little tougher because, like you said, they already have Stephon Diggs. You can't expect, I know we love Kelce, but it's not like Kelce gets, he's not a wide receiver. He's not going to get, 170, 200 targets. So, yeah, I think the Bills, it's still a slight bump because we're going from a Cardinals team that might have Colt McCoy or who's that rookie that says he's like the best quarterback in this draft. I can't remember his name. That's how good he is. Clayton Tune. We're going from potentially those guys to Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. So it's still got to be a bump from where we're drafting them now. But yeah, we'll see.
I mean, look, I don't want to be one of those who gives that knee-jerk reaction, which we do for so many players, running back, receiver, anyone who, he's going to Kansas City, he's top 10. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's not that simple. Think of all the guys who have gone to Kansas City the last couple of years that didn't do anything. So, I mean, yeah, he'll still be valuable, but again, it's not like it's going to bump him up back to where he was previously, because it's not the same exact thing. And we also have to remember, it takes time. These guys, as good as they are, as good as you want to, think that connection is going to be, Mahomes has to adjust to Hopkins. Hopkins has to learn the playbook and adjust to the offense and his role in it. It's not as easy as we think. Like, it's not like Madden where you just drop, plug and play, and then all of a sudden, like, it's like magic happens. So I think it will increase his value slightly, but he's not all of a sudden a wide receiver 1 for me. And there he goes. So at the 4-4, all right, would I take him before Mike Williams, Christian Watson, if he's in Kansas City? Williams, yes. Watson, probably. I think I still like Drake London a little bit better than Hopkins. Keenan Allen, probably no. Ridley, I'm not crazy about Ridley. Like, I think Ridley's solid, but I'd probably take Hopkins over Ridley. DJ Moore is where I'm kind of like,
Yeah, I agree. I would take him over all those guys. I do really like London this year, but I'd probably still trust Hopkins in that offense. I'd also take him over Debo. I'd probably still take him over DJ Moore, but you're right. That's where it starts feeling close. For me.
Yeah. All right. It's time for me to really start attacking wide receiver here. The question is who?
Man, I'm not high on Breece Hall this year, but man, at the 4-7 there, that's worth the risk for sure. That is worth the gamble.
Definitely worth it there. I mean, we saw a little bit of hype today on post ACL. There's some hope, and I mean, you don't know how much this people can always talk themselves into whatever, right? A little selection bias, and like maybe he'll be fine, but it's more of a second half as opposed to the first half. We're still not going to see last year's version of Breece Hall for a while, right? It's going to take like a full calendar year.
Yeah, and the things, like I saw that, and the things they were using. Actually, I'll just wait on him.
This was in the Discord, by the way, for people who don't know. If you're in their Discord, somebody's posting some hype and some stats, and somebody had this thread, and of course, I think it was on Twitter, and something about all these guys coming off ACL who actually did have success. But every guy's different.
Yeah, and not only that, it was like, okay, Edgar and James had like a 4-game stretch where he averaged like 19 points per game. But there's no context there. 19 points. Did he score 2 touchdowns in those games? Did he catch like 4 or 5 dump offs in those games? Like, was his yards per carry any good? Did he put up, like, was he breaking tackles? Was he doing all that stuff? Or did he just happen to have like, because like Saquon last year or 2 years ago, they also mentioned that he had like, back-to-back 20-point games. And it's like, yeah, he scored like 3 touchdowns. He was catching passes. Like, okay, that's a 2-game stretch. Like, lots of guys look good. Like, lots of guys have 2 games where they look great because they are scoring touchdowns or whatever. Maybe they have a big play. That's like, you can't just cherry pick these little like things here. The issue with the ACL is, for running back specifically, is the agility, not the straight line speed. Like, if he gets a hole, I have confidence that he'll still be able to hit a big run going straight, kind of like J.K. Dobbins last year, going straight. What happens when there's not a hole and he has to move side to side? That's going to be the big issue. Also, the confidence in the knee. This is something the doctors talk about a lot. Like, they say, hey, you got to get that. The player has to get the confidence back in the knee. Like, guys trying to hit you and kill you again, and that takes time. So I think we're at that spot, though. I would be willing to gamble on Breece at the 4-7. I could still see Breece maybe late in the season, finally, getting at least like 80, 90% back. But yeah, we're probably not going to see 100% Brees till next year.
No, and so we talk about dynasty a lot in this dynasty season, and you did take a chance on Brees Hall. I thought about it in our building dynasties draft league. Dynasty is a whole different thing, right? Because you can play for next year and you can look at his value for the next decade. Redraft, I'm not saying I'm going to stay away from him completely, but I'm definitely not drafting him near ADP, wherever even that winds up being, because I mean, there's so much potential for setbacks too. We can't ignore the fact that a lot of times guys have injuries because they're compensating for that. Like you said, they run differently. It might affect the way that they play. There's just too many risks, and the reward is minimal compared to that risk if you're taking them in round 3. So
yeah. And name me the last running back who came back from ACL and the first year they were even as good as they were prior.
Yeah.
But every year, I mean, name me even like the first running back or wide receiver. Like, when was the last wide receiver who came back from ACL and that first year was as good or better than they were the year before? But yet every year people just are like, this guy can do it. This guy will be the one. And look, maybe Brees will be the one. Like anything, somebody eventually will be the one. But you're like, it's like going to Vegas and it's like, hey, 90% of the time I win, 10% of the time you win. You're like, this will be the 10%. This is it. This is it. But you know what I mean? It's like, maybe it will be, but I'll take my chances that it's not. So I'm with you. It's not that I'm totally out on Brees. It's like people are drafting this guy like he didn't even tear his ACL. Like, he's fine. Like, he's totally healthy. So, but again, at the 4-7, I would gamble on. I would gamble on.
Right. There's always a point where then the potential reward does outweigh the risk. So it depends on your build and all that. I mean, he's not untouchable or anything like that.
No. And in Dynasty, he's still my RB2 behind Bijan. And that's why I took him in our Dynasty league. Because to me, it's like he's 22 years old. Even if this year is a lost year, next year he will be back to 100%. And a lot of times, guys, not only are guys as good in year 2 from ACL, a lot of times they're better. We've seen this with guys like Saquon last year. He was awesome last year. Dalvin Cook was awesome his second year back from ACL. We see this a lot. Guys second year back from ACL, they're even better. So we're talking about 23-year-old Brees Hall. Like that, like I'm totally okay with that. So in Dynasty, he's still my RB2.
Yeah, in Dynasty, same. I got him as RB2. Redraft, definitely much lower. So interesting to see, though, he's still going before guy that you did take was Jahmyr Gibbs. I would think that Gibbs would see his ADP go up, but maybe that's just when we get closer to the season and training camp hype builds.
Yeah, for Gibbs. Yeah, Gibbs is one of those guys. Again, he's another guy. When he falls that far, I'm just going to take a shot on him. He's very polarizing for me. I could sit here and make a case for Gibbs being awesome this year, and I could make a case for him getting DeAndre Swifted by the Lions. But again, to me, when I was looking at these wide receivers, I mean, Judy's okay, McLaurin's okay, Ayuk's okay, Pickens okay. I'm not super high on these guys. They're fine. I'm not off of them. So for me, it's like I'll gamble on a guy like Gibbs. I feel like that's a spot where I'll gamble.
Oh man, let's see. 1, 2. I think. Am I gonna totally confuse you and draft a guy that I've not drafted ever?
Whoa, Mixon. Definitely did not expect that.
Starting to a little bit come around on the fact that he's not a terrible pick at the end of round 6 and round 7. I think it's safe to take him there when you're looking at the guys who are left like the Dalvin Cooks and the Javonte Williams and Alvin Kamara's, who were great, a year or two ago, and Mixon at least has, I think, something left in the tank. I don't know. I'm mainly just trying something different out.
I mean, at least you didn't take Michael Thomas. That would have really been shocking.
No, that's not going to happen. And of course, they'll snipe me on Jordan Addison, who I was all set to take. Oh, thank you. All right, so somebody had a question here. I want to go back to this. We've talked about this before. Having multiple players from the same team on fantasy, like receivers, I guess he's talking about the same position, or like running back or receiver, not just a quarterback receiver stack or quarterback tight end. So 2 receivers or running back receivers from the same team.
I mean, it's fine. Like, as long, I mean, like if you had like some of these examples, if you had AJ Brown and Devonta Smith last year, you were feeling great. If you had Chase and Higgins, at least for the games when they were both healthy, you were feeling great. But even if only one of them was healthy, you were probably still feeling pretty good. Hill Waddle, you were feeling great until Tua, of course, got hurt. Jacobs Adams, you probably had a good chance of winning your championship. So, yeah, it's got to be the right situation, though, right? It's got to be a team that can support multiple or 2. Like, I would never, draft. I don't know who's like a terrible offense. Like, I mean, I almost want to say like the Falcons, but I think there are some players I would draft 2 of. So I don't even know. Like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Oh, I
think it's risky when I think the Falcons are a good example. I was thinking, like, if you're talking about Drake London and Kyle Pitts, both could be really great players, but with Bijan there, and they want to run the ball anyways, and it's just risky taking both those guys and hoping that they both break out. You're putting a little too much stock in a still yet to be determined offense. I want to say bad, but that's a little risky. I think if you're taking 2 receivers that are attached to Joe Burrow, I think you're fine. I think you're okay taking 2 skill players from the Eagles. I think you're fine.
Yeah.
But then it depends on the context. The Raiders last year was fine. This year, I don't know, because we don't even know
the clock, by the way.
So, yeah, I'm up. Oh, okay. He's going out of your way to snipe me. Well, then I'm going to reverse snipe you.
I was thinking about him. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking players I normally wouldn't take here. I don't know how I feel about it. All right, well, we've definitely talked about Olave, but it's been a while. You're definitely not the only one that loves him. Really? Is he getting bashed? Why would he get bashed? Who's bashing him? That's what I want to know. Who's bashing him?
People who don't understand. Well, to answer your question, there's a video. In fact, it's our most viewed video of the offseason, and it's me going like, and Chris Olave is right there. So I guess I should explain how I feel about Chris Olave. Although he was my number 1 rookie wide receiver last year, and nothing has changed for me. I mean, I'll still draft Garrett Wilson over him because he's got Aaron Rodgers, and I feel a little bit better about Aaron Rodgers just force feeding Garrett Wilson, but I still love Olave. I think he should be right there, very close to Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, those 2 guys, it's close, but yeah, we definitely are on board with Olave. And, Derek Carr's a guy who doesn't mind force feeding a receiver, as we saw with Devontae Adams last year. Now, Olave isn't Devontae Adams. I'm not putting him in that, in that space just yet. But yeah, Olave is probably getting still underrated. I think underrated. So no, we'll definitely be on top of Olave. Who doesn't like Clayton? Why Clayton?
Oh. How do you not like Olave?
All right, so Great Scott. We got Back to the Future reference. Problem is, can't justify taking him over Waddle or Keenan Allen. Okay, Waddle, I get. Keenan Allen.
You're going to have to explain the Keenan Allen one to me. Waddle, I get. Okay, Waddle, I get. It's close. I don't get the Keenan Allen one.
Keenan Allen is good to miss 3 or 4 games just automatically, right? He's going to get banged up, but also, like, he already isn't necessarily the top guy. I mean, I guess, with Mike Williams, it's becoming kind of even split. And then they just drafted a receiver, one of the top receivers. It's going to be an offense that spreads the ball around more. I mean, they'll still be pretty pass happy now that Kellen Moore's there, but still, Keenan Allen's not a guy who's getting better with age necessarily. I mean, he's solid, but he's more of a floor pick, and he's really a wide receiver 2, not a wide receiver 1. We both see Olave more low-end wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I just want to throw this up there, and I'm not saying this to like be condescending or anything, but people who are down on Olave just don't understand how good he truly is. Now, I get it if you're like, well, I don't think Derek Carr will support him. Okay. But I mean, we've seen Derek Carr support wide receivers, so that argument doesn't really hold. The guy is truly elite. He's elite. He's like, look, he had almost the exact same numbers as Garrett Wilson in 2 less games. Like, look at their metrics. They're pretty. He was just as good or better than Garrett Wilson in almost every single metric. It's just that Garrett Wilson got all the hype and Chris Olave didn't because they're coming out of college. Like, yeah, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave need to be much, much closer.
Yeah, the air yards, it's a good metric to evaluate within the season. It's not something that's sticky from year to year because a lot of that's just kind of a result of the offense and the way guys use. Olave was really used more just like as a field stretcher initially, even though he's really good at running routes everywhere else. That's just the way this offense was. And so that's why you also see a guy like Rashid Shaheed putting up some really good yard per reception numbers. Now, if they continue with that, with Derek Carr, Derek Carr, as ineffective as he was last year, he's still good at throwing the deep ball. That's one of his strengths.
Yep.
And he will throw the deep ball. So this is why I like Shaheed also. And I know you do too, Chris. And we still like Olave because, like that's to your point, is if he was averaging that type of air yard average with Andy Dalton, then I can imagine he's only going to get better with an at least competent, regardless of what you think of Derek Carr, at least a competent quarterback. All right, now it's my turn again. Let's see.
I feel like you're going to snipe me here.
Probably not, because I don't know who I'm taking yet. I think I could. Well, no, I'll just take my tight end.
All right. Well, you didn't snipe me. Although I do like that pick. Oh, you can't snipe me because he's already gone. It's a problem when I start getting on these. Where did he get? Oh, he did right there at the 8-2. Okay, never mind. All right, we're pivoting. We are pivoting.
Like, all I had left in my queue was tight ends because I had been talking and I hadn't been paying attention.
All right. I'm on rookies only. Gosh dang it. All right. Hold on. Oh, why do I keep doing that? All right. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, so I guess I agree with that. And going back to what Clayton's saying is it's all about value and he's just getting drafted too high. Okay, we always say that. I definitely agree. It's always about value. I disagree with that. I think he does belong in round 2. I mean, Higgins and Smith and Waddle, you could say they're more proven just because they've been in the league a little longer. But I think Olave can outproduce. And I like Ayuk and Pickens a lot, but I think Olave can outproduce them.
Yeah, I definitely – I think you want to talk about overhyped. It's George Pickens. he is way overhyped. I mean, yeah, okay, I like Pickens. I see the potential, but the guy's got a lot of weaknesses in his game, to be honest, and he's stuck with Kenny Pickett. Like, to me, Pickens is one of the most overhyped guys in fantasy right now.
Yeah, I like Pickens too, but there's only so much volume in that passing attack, right? It's going to be a little bit more conservative offense now than we want to admit. And so I like Pickens, but I still like him because he is going in like round 5, or where did he go this draft? Because he went right after me. Yeah, middle of round 5. I think that's fine for him. I think that's where he belongs. And I know some people are saying, well, why don't you just take Pickens in round 5 instead of Olave in round 2? Olave has the ceiling. That's what we're looking at, the ceiling. And Pickens, for an individual play, for an individual game, has that ceiling because he can make amazing plays. But man, I just don't think the target volume is going to be there. And with Olave, it might be, because as soon as Michael Thomas goes down with turf toe or whatever, then all of a sudden you're going to see a ton of targets going to Olave.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. I mean, I've just started drafting less of Pickens. I just feel like he's one of these guys that has all this hype, but when you really look deeper, he's got a lot of holes in his game. He really does. He's not a great separator. He struggles against zone. He's great on the deep routes, which would be fantastic if his quarterback wasn't Kenny Pickett. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like he's one of the most overhyped players in fantasy right now. Olave just had 1,100 yards as a rookie, and he missed 2 games, and we're talking about him being overhyped. George Pickens did he even get 800 yards? Did he even reach 800?
It was close. It was something around there.
Yeah, I mean, come on. What are we doing? Give me the wide receiver who had 1,100 yards in 15 games with Andy Dalton versus the hype machine that had 800 yards with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, see, even Flacco, Steelers fan, even agrees. But it's true. A highlight machine, a guy who gets social media hype, right, and fan hype, it's different from PPR production. You have to look at the numbers, right? Just crunch the numbers. You have to project target share. And here's the thing. Olave, I'm not projecting to have to share very much with Michael Thomas. All right, Deontay Johnson is still going to be there. Deontay Johnson wasn't a beast in fantasy because he didn't score touchdowns, but he's still got a ton of targets, and he's still, I think, technically the number 1 guy there in that offense, which makes Pickens number 2. Olave is the guy. I don't even think that's really much of an argument, even if Michael Thomas is healthy. Now we're talking about Cam Akers. There we go.
Yeah, now I agree with this. Akers and Swift are severely underrated. I definitely agree with that.
I mean, these are guys, we know why they're being drafted later, because they can't stop getting injured. I mean, obviously, they have to prove they can make it through a full season. So we know why there's, a depressed ADP here, but it's worth it, right? Definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Swift, obviously worth it. Akers, he's got no competition right now either. No legit competition for touches. So as long as that Rams offensive line is just decent, just halfway decent, he could have a monster year.
Yeah. Those are 2 guys I'll take shots on. And I know every time I bring up Swift in a video or on these things, people are like, he can't stay healthy. You're like, I'm not touching him. But look, we used to say that about guys like Keenan Allen. We said that about Christian McCaffrey for 2 years. I mean, we said that about a lot of guys. All it takes is 1 year of him staying healthy, and suddenly, everybody's back on the bandwagon. So I'll gamble on him staying healthy where he's going. We're talking about what? This guy's going at the, early 6th round. I'd rather gamble on those guys.
And you had a good point a little while back. Isn't this like a contract year for Swift? He's playing to get paid.
Remember, contract year. And look, you can say what you want. The Eagles traded a 4th-round pick for him. He might be like, oh, only a 4th-round pick. That's a big investment for a running back who's on the last year of his deal, because he could just be a 1-year rental. Like, there's no guarantee he's back with the team. So you're giving up a 4th-round pick for a running back who might only be on your team for 1 year, and if he continues to get hurt, might not even make it through the whole year. So to me, that seemed like a pretty big investment for a team that really didn't need. It's not like they're looking at their team like, oh, if we would have had a running back, we would have beat the Chiefs last year. Like, I don't think that was the issue, right? So I think they're going to give Swift every opportunity. Now, of course, the risk is there, right? The risk is there that, kind of like Penny. Penny's a good player. But Penny, man, I mean, that guy just plays 4 or 5 games in a row. It's like you're just waiting, like, okay, here it comes. He's going to get hurt. Like, so. But I think Swift's going to have every opportunity. And it's not an issue of talent. Like, it's not an issue of talent.
Some people will say, oh, but the Eagles, they always use a committee, right? They're going to bring in Kenneth Gainwell at the goal line, and Boston Scott's always there. But how much does Boston Scott actually do? You hear his name once in a while because he'll score a 2-yard touchdown, but he's not getting that many touches. So almost any running back these days is splitting time. He doesn't have to get a ton of quantity if he's making the most of it. And I do say this, there's some running backs, and I think Swift might be one, where he's more effective with fewer touches. And so I think he could offset that at that ADP. All right. I really hope.
Yeah, and I don't think he can get used less than he was used in Detroit last year.
No, that's not possible.
So almost anything has to be like an upgrade, right? Almost anything has to be an upgrade for him.
All right, since you took a Shane, I took your Kendrick and your Pirine, which is also my Pirine.
Wow, is he he's already been picked? Am I like don't know how to do this anymore? Did I forget how to use Sleeper? Okay. Hey Kim, let me know if I missed.
Interesting. Still holding out for Sky Moore, even with DeAndre Hopkins going there.
Well, there he is. He went at 8-6. Wow. Okay. Yeah. If Hopkins goes there, then I'm out on Sky Moore.
All right. Well, there you go. You answered my question. Like, completely out.
Yeah. For redraft, yes. Maybe I'll still try to go acquire him super, super, super cheap in Dynasty because, again, Hopkins, 31. No guarantee, like Sky Moore could still develop, and take over Hopkins. But in redraft, I would be completely out on Sky Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be. I mean, I don't know. This brings also back to mind my pick. I took Kadarius Toney, and of course, we're hearing all this buzz. Oh, he's the number one guy there. Of course, he's the number one guy until they get Hopkins, and we'll see if that happens. But I don't think that would make me out on Toney because he's a different type of player than Hopkins, and he's obviously not a guy like I was just talking about that depends on quantity, right? Toney doesn't need a ton of targets. He's a yak guy. He's a one play, big playmaker. So I think Toney is still worth drafting for sure, and it might even be a better value than he is now because he's starting to get some buzz and some hype again. Sky Moore, I think you just have to be out on, though. I agree.
Yeah. I wouldn't be completely out on Toney, but I would drop him considerably. Because at least right now, like, there's a path that maybe, again, Toney, another one of these guys. Can he stay healthy and actually play significant snaps week in and week out? Because if he can, he's currently the best wide receiver on the team, which isn't like saying anything. It's not like their wide receiver group is pretty bad. But there's a path where Toney could considerably, have 100, 120, 130 targets in this offense if he could stay healthy and play considerable snaps. But if Hopkins comes, then now it's like, okay, now he's the third guy and there's probably not enough targets here. And yeah, every now and then he'll score a touchdown on some, crazy play or whatever, but most weeks he'll probably do very little. So, yeah, that's how I'd feel about Toney if Hopkins goes there.
Best ball only. Becomes a best ball guy.
Best ball only. And, Brett, going back to our Swift, I totally get this, Brett. Yeah, look, Swift has been nothing but a disappointment based on expectations so far, for sure. But don't forget, not last year, but the year before, he was like the RB5 or 4 or 3 or something when he got hurt. Like, he was having a great breakout season, and then he got hurt, of course, and the season was over. But he was a monster prior to that. And remember last year, he started the season as a monster. Like, Jamal Williams was barely touching the ball the first couple of games. And then, of course, he got a little ankle tweak, and then everything changed. So I still believe in the talent. I mean, I get it. He's definitely overhyped. I think finally he's not overhyped this year. Finally, people are like, I'm done. But a lot of times that's when guys actually finally break out, right? When everybody's like, I'm done. I've had enough. And then it's like, oh, kind of like Josh Jacobs last year. Everybody was done with Josh Jacobs. They're like, I'm done. Done with this guy. And then what happened? Monster season. Not saying Swift can do that, but yeah.
The great example. Everybody was out on Josh Jacobs. I was like number one, right? I was the first guy off the bandwagon. And not that I actually was never even on the bandwagon, but I was kicking him to the curb, right? Like a Zamir White season. And so I had 0 Josh Jacobs. I don't know that I'll make that mistake with Swift again. I know there's risk, but like you said, I mean, you can't just completely dismiss him. This is it, though. This is the year. If he does nothing with Philly or he misses half the season again, just forget it. Just don't even bother with him. But you've got to take the chance that maybe it was the change of scenery that he needed. Maybe he's got the motivation this year to actually play through a bump and a bruise where apparently he wasn't before. This is what he's been called out for, right? Not me saying this, is Dan Campbell and Deuce Staley calling him out basically and saying, like, toughen up. Maybe he toughens up and, like Josh Jacobs did last year because he wants the bag. I think that could happen. Maybe a different environment in Philly. This is a team that's playing for a Super Bowl, right? They don't want to just go out there. And we heard this about the Raiders, right? A lot of guys before last year were just going out there and just going through the motions. Remember, they were getting called out for not really playing hard. So
you
anyways, you can't give up on Swift this year. I agree that he's been the most overhyped running back the last couple of years, but you don't want to completely miss out on him this year. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to have a lot of him necessarily, but I do want him at least in 1 or 2 of my leagues.
Yeah, and the problem is I already have him in some dynasty leagues, and now it's like, okay, that's probably all the Swift I want.
But yeah, so at least you already have some shares. You don't have to worry about it. Man, I just noticed after my last pick, like 4 receivers who were in my queue all got taken. So people are on Jaden Reed. That's good to see. Already talked about Shaheed. Of course, Stinger knows.
All right. I think I was going to go with my tight end here, but I think I can wait. I mean, I can definitely wait because both guys after me have a tight end. So let's get one more running back here. Who do we like? Zeke? Fournette?
Why not both?
Can I take both?
6 left.
Can I take both and start them both at the same time, like as one guy? Is that like the handicap when you draft Zeke and Lenny? You get to start both of them. You get like their combined points.
You know what? I just thought about this. Why doesn't this happen? A guy like Fournette, who's pretty big, like he's solid for a running back, right? But maybe he doesn't have the burst. Why don't these guys like convert late in their career to tight end? And then they can go out there and be a pass catcher, right? They got the hands. They've got the speed to get through linebackers, at least. Maybe not the best blockers. Might be a little obvious that I'm out there for.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, like Kareem Hunt, Zeke, Leonard Fournette, are these guys even going to play anywhere this year? I mean, I'm sure fine. Like these guys, like this just shows how fast it happens at running back. Like it just happens fast, and my guess is we're not gonna see these guys until a team loses their running back, right? It's gonna be like one of those things where, like, some teams, their starting running back is out, and they're like, well, let's go bring in Dusty Zeke or bring in Dusty Lenny or Dusty Kareem Hunt and see what happens. Kind of like Latavius Murray last year with the Broncos. It's going to be like that, right? It's going to be like, yeah, why? Like, man.
Yeah, that's exactly. Although, according to Zeke's agent, he's got a lot of interest from several teams. Yeah. He's had a lot of interest for the last 5 months.
He's just waiting. Look, he's just making these. He wants these teams getting a bidding war for him. That's what's going on.
There you go. That's what it is. He's waiting for the best opportunity. He wants to see the Super Bowl odds in Vegas to pick his.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why, people, it's funny. People are like, oh, why is, Derrick Henry is a second round pick and Austin Eckler, why isn't he the top running back taken? Because when that cliff hits, it hits all of a sudden unexpectedly, and it hits hard, and you just don't want to be on the wrong side of it. And I'm still on Derrick Henry. I'm fine with Eckler this year, but you've got to acknowledge that younger is better at running back almost always.
Yeah, exactly. And
I mean, I'm not taking Jahmyr Gibbs over Austin Eckler. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. No. But I'm just saying.
I think the one benefit for Eckler, and I was, I got to start diving back into this again. I did it last year. He doesn't have although his touches are starting to add up because he's had a lot of touches the last few years, but because he wasn't used so much early in his career, let's see, where is he at for touches? He's still, even though he's old in age, I like to say like running back years on touches. So he's at 1,200, and 1,500 is usually where we start to see. So guys who were going into last season that were very close to 1,500 or over 1,500 were Derrick Henry, of course, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Zeke, of course, Melvin Gordon. Joe Mixon was I think within the first 3 or 4 games, he hit that 1,500-yard mark. All those guys, I would even argue Derrick Henry, were the worst version of themselves we've seen. Derrick Henry was still very good last year, but he was probably still the worst Derrick Henry we've seen in many years. He had a lot of games, and this is for somebody who went out and acquired Derrick Henry in Dynasty to try to make a run. There were a lot of weeks where he was getting me 5 points. He's averaging 2 yards per 20. He'd have 27 carries and 55 yards or whatever it was. It was terrible. It was what the heck? It just happened. It's a brutal position. It takes its toll. So I think the one benefit for Eckler, even though you say oh, he's old, only 1,200 touches. I think he could still have one more really good year in him, but certainly it's getting close. It's getting close.
And that's one thing I think I don't even remember if I mentioned, but one video that's coming out pretty soon. I don't think it's out yet, right? Talk about our worst picks, some of the worst picks that you can make. Talk about the worst pick. And so I identified one of those guys you just mentioned where that cliff could hit because that magic touch marker is fast approaching and might happen very soon. Anyways, let's get to the reviews. All right, so let's talk about team 1, Bijan Mustard. Justin Jefferson then took Derrick Henry, Hurts, Hawkinson, balancing out each position there, and then wound up with Scary Terry and Chris Godwin. There's Dalvin Cook at the RB2. And then Juju, Khalil Herbert, Jacoby Myers, Rashad Penny, Romeo Doubs, and Calvin Austin. An interesting pick there. What do you make of this?
See, the problem is, because again, this is a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So the problem is when you go Hawkinson that early, now your wide receiver 2 and 3 is going to be McLaurin, Godwin, Juju, Jacoby, Dobbs, Calvin Austin. You're very weak at wide receiver outside of Jefferson, of course. And then, who are you going to flex? Because Cook is your RB2. You're going to have to flex Juju or Khalil Herbert or Jacoby Myers. Yeah, this is not I would have liked this team a lot more had you gone with another wide receiver paired with Hawkins instead of Hawkinson, like an Ayuk or even a Pickens if that's your guy or whatever. So I could feel a little bit better about your wide receiver group. And then you still could have gotten a tight end later, like Kittle. Look how late Kittle went. Look how late Goddard went. You could have waited on tight end.
Yeah, it's too early for Hawkinson. You're better off, like you said, just going double receiver. But just to be honest, after round 6, there's only one guy I would even have picked if it was my draft, and that's Jacoby Myers at where you took him, even maybe a little later than that. But none of those other guys are probably going to make it onto my roster. So, yeah, got some issues with the depth here. You don't want Juju in your starting lineup every single week or any single week, probably. Yeah. All right, team 2, Seahawks fan, blacked out for a moment, but is back apparently. So we'll forgive the Trey Lance and Zeke auto picks. So just looking at the first part here, Jamar Chase, Nick Chubb, DK, Judy, Lamar Jackson, Mike Evans, Pacheco, Gabe, Darren Waller, Michael Thomas, and then Tyler Algier.
Wow, got really, really dusty there at the end.
I mean, I'm just going to kind of say the same thing I just said. Honestly, after round 5, I'm not completely out on Evans, but yeah, I would have taken like Addison or someone instead, or I guess, or Flowers or something. I wouldn't have taken any of those guys that you took probably after round 5, just honestly.
I think Pacheco is okay. I think Pacheco might be the one guy I would take, but yeah, I agree. I just think like the back half of this draft, a lot of old, dusty guys, not a lot of upside. Algier's just a handcuff, which I guess at that point is okay. Yeah. Lost me. Other than Pacheco, you lost me after round 5.
Yeah. Your team has Ty Hill, Tony Pollard, Amari Cooper, Gibbs, Fields, Dotson, Flowers, Gibson, Ashane, Sky Moore, Pierce, Chase Brown. Interesting pick there. And then Komet as a tight end. So, I like your receivers. Of course, you already know this. And then, well, I don't like Sky Moore. But other than that, I like your receivers. You got Fields. You got a massive upside. Running back, you got great upside. So it's well constructed. I don't see any issues at all with this.
I will say, like, I somehow like my running backs more than my wide receivers. Even though I like Dotson and I like Flowers and I like Sky and I like Pierce, I also understand that they're very risky. I kind of like my running backs more than my wide receivers in this draft. I don't normally go 2 running backs in the first 4 rounds, but when Gibbs fell, I felt like I had to do it there. So I feel like this is definitely a boom bust team. Like this team could have. This is one of those teams that one week I'm going to score like 175 points and just destroy somebody. And then the next week I'm going to score like 75 points and get destroyed.
Like you say, go for the upside. You want that ceiling because come playoff time, that's what you need, right? 70 points isn't going to do it. So I like it. It's a solid build. It's a little different, but not as different as mine. I took guys, and I'm doing this on purpose. I took guys I would not normally take. So I went Cup at 4, Jacobs. I almost took Pollard, but I went with Jacobs. Just a little bit more workhorsey to me. And then I got Mahomes, Pittman, Ayuk with Kadarius Toney there. I did take Joe Mixon, Kinder Miller, and P. Ryan. And then the Muth at tight end with some, I guess you could say, upside receivers at the end. What do you think?
Yeah, I like this team too. So, like your team, the issue might be running back, right? If Mixon falls off the cliff, which he might have done last year. I do like Kendra and I do like P. Ryan, of course. I do like your wide receivers. I mean, Pittman is wide receiver 2, definitely makes me nervous, but you got enough depth, I think, behind him. You got Mahomes, you got Jacobs. I think Jacobs is the right pick over. I think Pollard maybe has a higher ceiling than Jacobs, but Jacobs certainly feels safer than Pollard. So I think that's the right pick. So, and I like that. I know you were debating about that Cup pick, but I think that's right where Cup should go. So I think this is a very good team. Very good team.
Yeah, I'm still feeling like Mahomes is solid there, but there's not a receiver that really jumps off the page there. Like, who do I take? I probably would have taken Cooper if you hadn't. Maybe I'm taking London there or DJ Moore. That's who I was between. It's like I don't feel like those guys have to be early 3rd round picks. But then if I do take one of those guys, and then on the way back I'm taking another receiver like a Pittman or Ayuk or whatever, and I could still get a Justin Herbert in round 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I still feel like going round 3 quarterback just isn't necessary, but I did it for some reason. All right, AL didn't go 0 RB. He took Ramondre in round 3, sandwiched in between CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, George Pickens, and Jordan Addison. And then he took Rashad White in a reverse snipe there. Took James Cook, Brian Robinson, Rashawn Johnson, and Raheem Mostert with Njoku and Anthony Richardson. How do you feel?
I feel great. This is not I can't find really anything to complain about. I mean, my only nitpick would maybe be Pickens, but I know a lot of people are super high on Pickens, so okay, fine, take him there. But really, I can't find much wrong with this team. I love Njoku there. I think Richardson is a great last round quarterback dice roll. The wide receivers are strong. Stevenson, the anchor. You got depth at running back. This is a great team. Great team.
It's a typical AL draft, which means he knocked it out the park. All right, so NMB went Bijan. All right, so at the 6 overall, that's fair. Then went Olave. We had our discussion for a while about him. Not too early for either of those guys, right? We're on the record saying that's fair value for both those players.
Yes, I agree.
All right. And then Keenan Allen. I actually feel like that might be a little too early. You think it's okay for Keenan Allen to 3?
That's the pick. That's the pick that's going to get me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Keenan Allen. That's the problem. There's just nothing wrong with him. Like, he's fine. But he's more like one of these guys I would like to get a little bit later. I'd rather gamble on a higher upside play, like a London, like a DJ Moore, like a Watson, like a Mike Williams, like a D-Hop. I'd rather just gamble on somebody with a little more upside this early. And then if I can get Keenan Allen a little later, that'd be fine. But he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. I wonder, though, do you feel like since you're kind of taking some chances with Bijan there and then Olave and hoping that they really break out, and then Breece Hall, bouncing back, Kyle Pitts later, do you feel like it's smart to take more of a safe pick like Keenan Allen, like floor pick, or just you might as well just shoot for the upside and take another guy like a Ridley or a London?
Yeah, because let's say Bijan isn't the guy we think, and let's say Olave regresses, and let's say Breece Hall isn't healthy. Is Keenan Allen's 17-point floor saving your team? No. No. Like, you'd be better off having like a guy like, I'm not saying obviously you can't get like Tyreek Hill, but like if let's just say you had Tyreek Hill instead of Keenan Allen, which I know you can't in this draft. But if Tyreek Hill drops 35 points, you still might win. Keenan Allen giving you 17, like this, I don't know where like this that never make like I'm not gonna say it never makes sense. Obviously, there's a point where it's okay, but because if those guys bust, Keenan Allen's not saving your team.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, for me, Keenan Allen these days is more like a 4th round pick in a 12-team league. But anyways, so Breece Hall 4.7, we agreed that's good value for him. Herbert, Pitts, Burks, Monty, Jamal Williams, Tank Bigsby, Rondell Moore, Izzy. I didn't see Izzy drafted much, and Josh Downs. I will say, other than the Rondell Moore pick, just because I personally am not on him, never have been, I think this is a lot of good values other than the Keenan Allen pick.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of good values. I like the Rondell Moore pick. I mean, yeah, he's never going to be like a monster, but with D-Hop gone, he should get peppered with targets at least. So I other than the Keenan Allen pick, which isn't even really that bad, I think a lot of good value here, a lot of good picks.
No, it's not a bad pick, but it's just a could have been better pick. But a lot of players in this squad I do like. A lot of risk, but a lot of potential reward. All right, and then Andrea went with Diggs, Devontae Smith, Calvin Ridley, and then Etienne Walker and Sanders. So 3 receivers, 3 running backs, then a tight end in Kittle, Mooney, Tua, Deuce Vaughn. I like that pick. I would have liked it 3 rounds later. Hodgins is solid, Singletary, and then Tim Patrick.
That's got to be our first Tim Patrick of the offseason.
That is our first Tim Patrick.
Wow.
This season.
Yeah, this season. I don't want to go too crazy here, but I'll just say I really like this team up to Miles Sanders. And then I really like it again up to Deuce Vaughn. And then I really like it again up to Tim Patrick. My issue with Miles Sanders, like, I think Miles Sanders will be fine, but I don't really want to be flexing. Like, I don't want to be starting Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, and Miles Sanders every week, which is kind of what your build is forcing you to do almost. I would have rather had like a guy like Addison, Dotson. I mean, pick your upside wide receiver there. I love that, like Kittle. That seems like great value there. Deuce Vaughn, okay. Like I'm just not drafting Deuce Vaughn. Like he's 170 pounds. Like, what are we really expecting from Deuce Vaughn? He barely only got drafted because his father is like on their scouting team or whatever. Like I'm just not picking Deuce Vaughn personally. But yeah, but the Miles Sanders pick is the one there because when you go Etienne and Walker, which I think is fair value for those guys, I think you should try to secure like a high upside flex. And I think Sanders will be fine. I just don't know if he's going to give you that weekly upside.
Right, exactly. Because it's 3 receivers starting and a flex. Yeah, if that Sanders pick would have been Addison or Dotson or Flowers, this might have been my favorite team, really. And then I don't mind the Deuce Vaughn pick. I actually like it, but I think it could have been in round 12 instead of Singletary. And then you still could have got a running back like Tank or Pirine instead at that spot. So really close to being the best team, I think. But it's still pretty solid. I mean, you have a lot of good pieces in place. All right, and then Anthony is up. AJ Brown, Barkley, London, Joe Burrow went with J.K. Dobbins, and then Deontay Johnson, Quentin Johnson. I feel like he's taken Quentin Johnson a couple times. Is that me or no? Is that his guy? I think that's his guy.
Maybe.
Unless I'm thinking of somebody else. All right, Charbonnet, Javonte, Sutton, and then OBJ, Schultz as the tight end, and then shot on Cedric Tillman late.
So he's saying 10th round was an accidental pick, which is Cortland Sutton, which I don't mind that pick.
That's fine.
If you had said 9th round was an accidental pick, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. Like, why are we still doing this? Like, I'm just not drafting Javonte. I'm just not doing it. Not taking Javonte. Talked about him a bunch. Not gonna talk about him again. But anyways, I other than that, I really like this team. I mean, you got AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, Drake London, Joe Burrow, J.K. Dobbins is a great first 5 picks. I think Deontay as your wide receiver 3 is fine. I think between Quentin Johnston, Cortland Sutton, Odell Beckham, and Tillman, you should hopefully have a decent flex there. Running back depth is going to be weak because Charbonnet stuck in there with Kenneth Walker, and we've talked about Javonte over and over. Like, just we're already like a little nervous about Brees. I'm like full-fledged panic when it comes to Javonte.
Yeah, the Sutton pick is fine. Like, to me, if he had fallen another round, I probably would have taken him because I've been doing that. So yeah, the Javonte pick, but whatever. So pretty good though. I mean, if Quentin Johnson pays off, you could have a really scary starting lineup. So I think it's pretty good. And then the fantasy sleeper went CMC, Garrett Wilson, Josh Allen, D-Hop, Aaron Jones, Lockett, Goddard, Madison, Kamara. And then Jalen Hyatt, DPJ, Eli Mitchell, and Alan Lazard. So I feel like we're going back to the beginning of this draft. Yeah, I know you're with me here. First half, good. Second half, not so much.
Yeah, I just realized we had Javonte Kamara back-to-back. Yeah, I mean, CMC, Garrett Wilson there, that's got to be the lowest we've seen Garrett Wilson in a long time. That's where he was going, when we weren't sure it was still going to be, when we still thought it might still be Zach Wilson this year. That's great value. Can't argue about Allen there. D-Hop, fine. I think Aaron Jones is fine there. Lockett as your wide receiver 3, that's good. Goddard, great value. I'm fine with Madison there because there's still some, we're still not sure about Dalvin Cook, still hearing different things about him. But yeah, then Kamara, Hyatt, I mean, at least Peoples-Jones. I like Mitchell, Lazard. So I don't hate the second half. There's just a few picks in there where I'm like, I probably want to pick those guys. But I think it's a solid overall team.
I mean, after the first 5 picks, I'm thinking we might have the highest scoring team here. And then the Lockett is fine. And then Goddard, I like where you took him, but then you're looking and it's like, okay, you got 3 receivers who are really good, but then who are you flexing?
True.
Madison? Are you sure? And then, or Jalen Hyatt, DPJ, and then Lazard doesn't even really need to get drafted. So that's the problem, is your flex is a huge question mark. Like, you're hoping and praying that Kamara plays a full season and is good again, or that one of those receivers busts out. So I really like the way you started, and I don't love the way it ended. And then the other John, 65, JT, Waddle, Debo, Mike Will, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Akers, Rashad Bateman, AJ Dillon, Ingram. Was that a snipe? Stinger.
No, because Stinger took Kelsey, so he wasn't taking Ingram tonight.
He would have taken him anyways. And he took Trevor Lawrence from him also. So that's a double Jag snipe. Man. All right. Mingo, Reed, Foreman, and Wandale. What do you think?
I like this team a lot. I mean, yeah, I really like this team. JT and Akers, Waddle, Debo, and Big Mike, Trevor Lawrence, Evan. They got the Lawrence Ingram stack. Maybe flex could be an issue, right? Because Bateman, AJ Dillon, Mingo, Reed, Foreman, Wandale probably might not even play this year, to be honest. But man, I think even with the flex maybe being a little weak, I think the rest of the roster is so good that it'll still be okay. So I really like this team a lot.
Great core. Have to agree. I don't see any issues with this team. I think I might have preferred if there was only one rookie receiver toward the end and you had one rookie running back instead, right? Instead of Foreman, take a guy with more upside. But that's nitpicking. So this is a really good draft, especially out of the 10 spot. And then Stinger, who's going to have a Jagless team. Is that possible? But he did get Nico Collins, so all is well. Kelsey, Sun God, Najee, Christian Watson, JSN, DeAndre Swift, Dak Prescott, Elijah Moore, Nico. Then took Williams, Shaheed, Jerome Ford, and Zach Evans. Some of my favorite late round picks there.
Yeah, I mean, there's only really one pick here that I don't like.
Which one?
But I don't want to spoil it because it's on an upcoming video. But the rest of the team is very good. I mean, St. Brown, Watson, JSN, that should be good. Najee and Swift, I mean, that's worth the gamble for both those guys. Dak is your QB. And then you got Elijah Moore. I was going to combine like Nico and Elijah. Elijah Moore, Nico Collins, Rashid Shaheed, Ford, Evans. I definitely think your flex will be okay. So I definitely like this team a lot. One of the stronger teams for sure.
All right. And nice trying to insert a Bijan debate before we go. Not happening today. He's already been talked about. Well, actually, we didn't even talk about him, but he's already been passed. We did that team. Not insane, but let's go to team 12. King of the world, Austin Eckler and Devontae Adams at the turn. I think that's a pretty good way to start. DJ Moore and then Mark Andrews. Damian Pierce, Hollywood, Connor, Deshaun Watson, Thielen, Cooks, Damian Harris, Rashee Rice, and Tyler Boyd. I was going to say the end of this draft is a little dusty other than Rashee Rice. What do you think?
Very dusty. I mean, Eckler there, it's great value. I'm not taking Adams that high personally, but maybe he'll overcome whoever his quarterback is going to play. Aiden O'Connell. Maybe Brady will come out of retirement. Brady. I don't know. But I like the rest of the team up until you get to Thielen, and then it's like Thielen, Cooks is okay. I think Damian Harris is okay. Yeah, it's a good team, but yeah, definitely got a little dusty at the end.
Yeah, not as rough as some of the other second halves of some of these drafts, but yeah, look, if you're going to take a shot late, you say, well, all these guys are like whatever, unknowns. Yeah, take a chance on an unknown guy. I took like John Mechie, hasn't even played a snap in the NFL. He could have a significant role if he's healthy. He was just out because not even injury, it was because of illness. I'll take a shot on him. I'll take a shot on Isaiah Hodgins being the number one guy in that New York pass offense. I'd rather take a shot on one of these players, or Jaden Reed, who I really like, possibly in Green Bay, Rashid Shaheed. I'd rather take a chance on one of those guys than a Thielen suddenly having a resurgence at, what is he, 33 or something on a
and
new
team? He's
team?
been bad 2 years in a row. Like, what kind of resurgence is he going to have?
And on a new team, and with a rookie quarterback, and he's going to be maybe the number 3 or 4 target. So anyways, it's not like that kills your team, but just those kind of things. So, but solid overall. All right. So before we leave, I think it only is fair if I remind anybody who wasn't with us at the top of the show. You're going to hear a lot about this. We're very excited. We're launching a new app. Well, we're not launching it. We're just proud to be associated with it. It's called Draft Lane, and it's definitely something you guys want to download right now. It is free, and you can check out all the benefits it offers. You ready to start winning? This is the time to check it out. You can start asking questions to us on here, even when we're not live. And that's the thing. If you've been with us for our live shows, our start sit shows, our draft advice shows through last season, it gets backed up real quick. So this is a way that you can connect with us anytime. So check it out. Tell your friends. Don't tell all your league mates, because you don't want them to have that advantage too. But anybody who you don't play and compete with directly in fantasy football, tell them about it and download it. All right. We'll hear more about it in the coming weeks. And we'll be back, I believe, tomorrow to draft again.